Ci incontriamo 1 milione di volte al giorno, in 1 milione di momenti diversi, dentro 1 milione di case. Illumia, insieme con la stessa energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
È come se ci conoscessimo. Siamo 1 milione di persone con la stessa energia. Ci incontriamo 1 milione di volte al giorno, in 1 milione di momenti diversi, dentro 1 milione di case. Illumia, insieme con la stessa energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
la civiltà dell'amore. Fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Ho visto il mondo cambiare, la mia vita si è...
I saw the world change. My life has broken into 1,000 pieces and rebuilt itself 1,000 times. I've met people of many types, many of them disappointed, many of them betrayed me. Some of them saved me. I have seen that in the face, and I have not yet fully understood life. There has never been a moment in my existence that has not been accompanied, told, and underlined by a song. Music is a wonderful adventure. Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th edition of the Rimini meeting, whose title is "If We Are Not After the Essence, What Are We After?" We have the privilege to have on this stage Mr. Enrico Ruggeri. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening to you all. Thank you. I was told that nobody would come, so I was less intimidated. It was something among friends. It is something among friends. Thank you for accepting our invitation. It is really a pleasure and a joy to have you here. I don't know whether I was good at making a spoiler of your book. I was afraid you were about to read the whole book, actually. So this is a book that is fundamental, I think, not only for your fans in Italy and in Europe, but also for young people who maybe do not know a lot about the work related to music and the work that is behind music. It tells a little bit of my life through the 40 albums I produced. So making an album means spending 2 or 3 months closed somewhere with some people. And so it is a tale of my life in the end. Of course, it also tells readers about Italy, a country that has changed, a new approach to music. The approach to music has changed. The country has changed. Life has changed. And it also tells how tiresome it is to look for this holy grail of the sound. You have something in your mind. You have it in your mind. You have a song in your mind, but you're not going to play that song, or you play an instrument, and you need to explain to the other musicians the way in which you want the drums to be played or the keyboards to be played, and then you need to trust other people who need to use their creativity. And you should also listen, and they should also listen to what you have in your mind. So a group is created. Music is a discipline that is made with friends, smiling, with a smile on your face. As a musician said, David Byrne said, music contains its reward. As for David Byrne, he explained that music does not fix a dripping water, a dripping tap. Well, but it can help. Music is a series of questions. In many cases, there are no answers. A series of sensations, feelings, empathy. Writing a song usually means having feeling empathy, feeling empathic with somebody. It is also putting on a show. It is about making trivial things become important. I always say that when it comes to the life of every human being living in the world, you could write a song, you can write a book, you could write a theater, a pièce, or you could make a movie. People are interesting. I don't know whether I manage to love other people as I love myself, but I'm very much interested in what happens to other people. The difference is the way in which you tell stories. It is not just the theme, the topic you're dealing with. If I tell you there's a young boy with a debt killing a miser, this is a text, a user, it could be contained in a trap song. But Dostoevsky wrote a Crime and Punishment on this topic. It depends on the way you deal with the topics. So you dealt with the topic of the relationship between fathers and sons from a two-fold vision, as a son and as a father. And I would like to start by a quotation of Pope Francis dealing with the orphanhood. Orphanhood is a topic which is very much present in Pope Francis' speeches. You've lived a particular relationship with your father, which is very similar to my own personal experience. In my personal history, there's a hook, there's a connection with your story. This is the quotation by Pope Francis. He says, orphanhood is a feeling of not having a father, and therefore not being a son, of not walking in a design, but within a blind case. This is what Pope Francis said. You wrote beautiful songs as a father dedicated to your kids. What is your experience as a father? Let's talk about Enrico as a father first. As all the fathers of the last few years, I end up by stating that the quality of time is more important than the quantity of time you spend with your kids. But this marks there is something lacking. Those having my same job are perfectly aware of the fact that they miss things about their kids. I've had kids of various generations. My oldest son is 34. Then I have another son of aged 19, and then I have a girl, a teen girl, a restless girl of 14 years. So I had two different generations of kids. My son, who was born in 1990, belongs to a totally different generation, a totally different world. He's now a man, and he has a very strong spiritual attitude, inclination. It was stronger than his passion for music. The quest for himself was more important than his non-ambition, and he wrote songs. The two kids, the one aged 19, are totally imbued in a very complex world I don't like personally. A world made of totally ephemeral desires, are very vague responses, and they are very much tormented. They have torments. My kid, my son, tells me often that he doesn't have any passion, as I did. And I answer, go on living. You will find your passion sooner or later. The passion will come. My oldest son is a musician. My other kid, age 19, listens to the music I consider awful. If they applaud, I know they know what I'm talking about. He listens to singers for whom being in jail is part of the CV, of their resume. It's a plus. That's it. It's a fact. It is a plus. It is a fundamental aspect, more than learning how to write a song. It's more important to have been in jail. And of course, the terrible and curious aspect is that when he was aged 7 or 8, he listened to the Led Zeppelin along with me. His favorite track was a track by Joy Division. Then they go to school and they start talking with their friends. And due to complex reasons I cannot really grasp, at a certain point they all focus on one type of music with the aggravating element that in our generation it was fundamental to be out of the group, to differentiate yourself. You were looking for something that nobody else liked. You try and be peculiar. Today we have a generation of people who are terrorized by the fact that they get out of a group, that they get out of a certain circle, and this is something very bitter to me. Hopefully it will pass. You wrote a very beautiful song. The title is Geppetto rimase di nuovo da solo. Geppetto was left alone again. And it links us with the second segment, dealing with your relationship with literature. In my experience as a son with my dad, this song came to me at a moment in which I had reconciled myself with the figure of my dad after he died, 6 months after he died. And I saw my father. I thought that my father, after 50 years of fights, silences, he never accepted my vocation. I felt that my father was trying to tell me something. I remember that he could not manage to tell me what he felt. So getting back from the chemotherapy, we listened to this song, and I wanted this to be his words for me. So let's now have a look at the contribution with the adventures of Pinocchio. You say it in your book titled 40 Vite. You were fascinated by this person. Well, the first sentence. In the first sentence, you find the majority of what being a parent means. You know that you give, and you know that you will receive hardly anything in exchange for what you're doing. All the parents know it very well. So indeed, the father making the feet and Pinocchio using the feet to hit the father is the symbol of being a parent. I wrote this song on Joseph the Carpenter in a moment in my life in which I was not happy. I was a separated father, and I could stay with my son only at certain times, and I wanted to build a relationship with my son. And I finally managed to do it. At a concert when he was 10, I brought him to a concert by Alice Cooper, and I managed to establish a relationship with my son. That was the beginning of my relationship with my son. It's not really very suitable for a priest, but I will tell you this anecdote. During this concert, there was a person imitating Britney Spears. So Britney Spears was considered like rubbish music. Alice Cooper came, so he used guillotine, and there was a look-alike Britney Spears, and with a sword, with a play of lights, with a scimitar, he cut her head. The head, of course, was not a real head; it was a fake. It also happened in the gospel. So Alice Cooper takes the head. It was not Britney Spears in the Gospels, in any case. So it was not as serious as being Britney Spears. So Alice Cooper, takes the head, and it shows the head of Britney Spears dripping in blood. And my son told me at 10 years of age, this is the most beautiful day of my life. And he embraced me. So that was the beginning of my relationship with my son. So getting back to Joseph the Carpenter, Geppetto, to me, was a symbol, a man who was so in love of parenthood that despite not having a wife, he decided to make a puppet, which became a boy, the cause of all the trouble for Geppetto. And Geppetto faced all this trouble in a sweet way, in a Christian way, I would say, because he loved his son so much that he managed to bear all the jokes, all the things that Pinocchio said. So it was a very strong image that I decided to use for one of my songs. When we decided with the organizers of the meeting to prepare this meeting at the beginning, we were supposed to have this meeting with Professor Franco Lembrini. We spoke to Franco on the phone, and in preparing this meeting, Franco told me to note down this part of this song and to create a parallel with the third chapter of Pinocchio. He wrote this: for any for any mother, for any father, and now it's late. A decision to give life carries with it a responsibility that never ends. This is parenthood. This is being a parent, being a mother, and being a father. As I said earlier, you know, first of all, that this is, you don't know whether this will be the last person you will see from a technical point of view. But in your song, you say that in any case, he will get back. A father waits for the son. It is inherent in human nature. It is a very strong relationship. In many cases, it is a univocal kind of relationship. The world is full of people stating that in the last years before my father or my mother died, I understood later on what they had done for me. But it is difficult. There are not so many people who state, when I was 20 and my father was 50, I was always with my father. They always understand all these things later on, as it happens in many things in life. We have a piano here on the stage. We have a guitar. And we could not but ask you to sing some of your songs. At the beginning, in the sound check, you had a sound check with a song titled Dimentico. Up to just a few minutes ago, I did not know which songs Enrico would sing, but all of his songs are perfectly suitable for this meeting because he has made 40 albums. So Dimentico is a very peculiar song. Songs are written because you are hit by something. You have a strong feelings. It may be love, but it may be something else, not necessarily love. It happened to me as a president of the national selection of football players, singers football players. I spent some hours in a place, and then I got back to that place where some people suffering from Alzheimer's disease are being catered for. I was struck by the fact that if you think about something with Alzheimer's disease, you think about an elderly person. There were people who were not 60 yet. And then, of course, the most impressive relationship is that with the caregivers. The person with the Alzheimer's disease at first feels ashamed because of this condition, and then they enter a sort of oblivion for which, as much as we know, life is probably not so unhappy, but we don't know. Of course, the greater difficulties in that period is that experienced by the caregivers. They witness their beloved one, a husband, a brother, suffering from Alzheimer's disease. So my mother and my aunt died when they were very old, and I had to be very patient. I went to see them, I went to visit them, and I remembered that these women were so dynamic, so intelligent, so clever, so curious. And I started to see that they were not up to the situation. And it was very difficult for me to remain there, to stay there. And sometimes I decided to flee. So I can easily imagine the situation of these caregivers, of the relatives, being taking care of these people, of their relatives who are no longer able to recognize them. There's a likelihood that among the people, that some of these people here in this room tonight have one of their relatives suffering from this condition, and I would like to hug them virtually. So please take the stage. A round of applause to Francesco, who will play along with Enrico.
Grazie. Grazie, ragazzi.
Posso dire da
May I say it was really very touching. So let's continue talking about the relationship between fathers and their children. I'd like to hear from your experience as a child. It was not very easy one. It was not a very easy one. It was very peculiar. I don't know how to talk about it. My father has always been a very peculiar person. He never worked one single day in his life. He really wasted a patrimony that had been accumulated for 3 to 4 generations, and I'd like to thank him for that, because I was born with a real demeanor against the aristocratic money, with the anger of those coming from the middle class. So if that patrimony had reached me, I would have probably received less stimuli in my life. So there's nothing to reproach him on that. My father was very clever. He had a very bright intelligence, but that intelligence was not applied to life. He used to read and to listen to classical music, but that did not help him in his real life. Then he worsened, and at a given place he stopped communicating. He was no longer interested in the world. And this happened in the most important years for me. I mean, I was back then 25 years, so probably I did not manage. I was unable to devote all the efforts and the energy that was necessary to help him. He died when I was 25, so I have lots of regrets in this respect. Only had I done or known this. My father is someone I dream a lot of. My father gave me everything. My mother, gave me everything. But paradoxically, I dream of my father, probably because I actually had a very nice and affectionate relationship with my mother. My mother did everything for me. She paid my university taxi, even if it was no longer necessary. But I keep on dreaming my father, with whom I had a relationship that was not fulfilled. The problem in life is that as I had never had a male figure raising me up, as I was surrounded by aunts, my mother. Actually, up to 14 years of age, I thought that women were being sent by gods to make me happy. And then when puberty came, I thought that women were basically being sent by God to challenge you. Of course, women are neither things. But then after about 15 years, I managed to strike a balance between these two opposites. So oftentimes, I, in a way, had working relationships that were filled of friendship and love because of the lack elsewhere. So Geppetto was alone again. again, talking with Nembrini, we noticed that there was a loneliness that is very much a part of the tradition of communion and liberation. I dug into the wood to give it life, come back and you'll see I'll be able to speak to you. We'll be too well together. So the father remains a father irrespective of the fact that his son decides to leave the home. But the two of us felt the same experience, orphanhood. We didn't receive this promise. But actually everybody tries to change the world in his microcosm. Oftentimes quite the opposite happens. I don't want my child to suffer from anything that he may lack, and therefore I give him or her more. At least this is what should be done. So this truth that you are expressing was found in a song by Claudio Chieffo, who interpreted spiritual nature owned by Father Giussani. And I'll show you a video here.
Allora, era la canzone
So, this is the song Martino e l'Imperatore, written by Claudio Chieffo. Martino was the young guy who sang this song, and I'd like to thank Martino and Benedetto for allowing us to show this video. Claudio wrote, "Believe only in our Father, who has come and who will come. Hold tight to my hand, even if he will not be there." What do you think of this? Well, actually, these are saying that Father is written with the capital F, Padre is with the capital P. So that's another Father. There are lots of moments in my songs in which I look above and I address the Father up there, and Padre Nostro is one of them. We're touching a very important topic here. Do you experience the hand of God? Yes, absolutely. If someone asked me, do you believe in God? I would probably terribly answer, like many Italians say, yes, I do believe, but I don't go to Mass, I don't do this and that, which is not something positive. But I surely feel that there's a presence accompanying me. I have no doubts on this. And I have no doubts even when I say that even if we are selfish when we say that praying is an act of consolation because it helps us feel better, I believe that, in fact, I feel that this pathway we walk on earth is not an end in itself. I don't know how this will become visible. I hope this will be materialized in what you actually talk about, but as a matter of fact, I do feel this presence. Maybe there are there's some forgiveness for those who commit certain crimes, but actually the Father is great and forgives everybody. Talking about the Father, you wrote 3 songs. Polvere, you never sing it live. Actually, this is not a song that is normally demanded. It is one of those album songs, and it refers to a very precise episode which was very painful. At a given point, my father was hospitalized at the Niguardia Hospital in the psychiatry department. And so I saw that there was a series of people, and I understood that each of the patients in that ward were kind of possessed and haunted by their own evils. They were maybe too lonely or extremely social. So I understood the madness of all this. And I wrote a song. I even wrote another one, La Preghiera del Matto. And I'd like to stop you here. What does Enrico write in 40 Lives, 40 Vite, on this Preghiera del Matto? The Preghiera del Matto is one of the best songs I've ever written because it narrates the pain of those who realize that something has broken in that very mysterious point that is at the intersection between the soul, the body, and the heart. So while I was writing that song, my thought would go to my father. I am the host that roams in a yard like a black swine that is left alone. My memories of the past I no longer have from too much sleeping. Everything is confiscated and is no more. They made it disappear. Oh my Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on your son. Oh my Jesus, leave a smile for me. I am the burden on consciences, careless of life, opulent and married to each other. I'm the ruined card inside the game. I sing out of the choir, and I eat bread and drink wine that no longer has the holy taste anymore, and I have to close the door on my shameful pain. Oh my Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on your son. Oh my Jesus, leave a smile for me. I am the custodian of an abandoned cathedral without the slightest hint of life. I'm the swallow whose wing was shattered when summer is over. In the chasm of my silences is the fate of a man. But of the will to die locked in me, I ask for no forgiveness. Oh my Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on your son. Oh my Jesus, leave a smile for me. Oh my Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on your son. Oh my Jesus, leave a smile for me. So I have to recover from this wonderful, touching moment. This is from La Preghiera del Matto. And we decided to read it out because in your writing, your words are a great act of narration. So this is very much your style. I mean, you like literature, you are a narrator, you write novels. I have one of the most beautiful novels I've ever read in my life. So you have a very deep and close relationship with literature. We had a couple of interviews on Radio Vaticano, and you said that if an artist, the more books an artist reads, the more capable he is to go deeper in his songwriting. Yes, absolutely. I think that one thing that comes immediately to the surface is that today's songs, of course, there are very interesting things as well, but the songs that you hear today are written by people who have not read, who actually use 500 words and not 50,000 words, who actually their declared intention is to make some good money and not to become famous in history. So there are some kind of reserves in this respect. This is a complex topic. Actually, music making means that you no longer have the time to invest. It might also be the case that people do not accustomed to you immediately, but discographic houses would continue to invest in you if they believed in you. However, I believe that reading is fundamental in life, and especially if you want to write. I mean, you cannot avoid reading if you want to draft. That's structurally impossible. So we made a play. We tried to invent some kind of a jigsaw puzzle, bringing together the novels, the books that have been fundamental for you, that have been a source of inspiration. Let's try and see if I managed. So Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. You devoted a whole album to that. You even had a second version. Well, that is a fantastic work of art written by a 19-year-old woman, and she writes a book that goes well beyond her intentions. She had a time bomb that exploded in her hands. It is a story of ambition. Professor Frankenstein wants to become number one. And he doesn't care about ethics or philosophy. He only wants to become a number one.
La paura di...
And then there's the second tendency of man, the fear of getting old. If you look around today, you see a lot of people wearing wigs or undergoing plastic surgery, doing liftings. I mean, we all try and postpone the thought of death. And then love. So when does the monster get angry? He gets angry when he asks Dr. Frankenstein for a companion, for a mate. And actually, the doctor already is afraid of that and doesn't build basically any mate. So the thought that love is a primary asset exactly as eating and sleeping. It's a necessity. And then the meeting with the infinite, with the two in the end go together towards their death. And then actually he was a father, son at the same time. So this is a novel which is extremely topical. Furthermore, you also have the topic of diversity, because the monster at a given moment meets an innocent young girl. And there was a genius moment. So the young girl plays with the monster. For her, that's not a monster. It's just a big, different woman. And then her parents come, they start screaming. And only in that moment does she see him as a monster. So basically, it is a beam that has been built, but as a child, we don't see certain structures. And so the fear for diversity, there's everything in that novel. And I actually basically created a concept. I wrote songs in that order. I played them, recorded them, and mixed them in the order, precisely in the order in which I composed them. So let's go back to the topic of trap music. There are two quotes. The first one is by Don Lorenzo Milani from the book La parola fa uguali. I think that the problem of trap music is a problem of language. Actually, getting down to their own language is something that I do not want. And Orwell, in his famous novel 1984, basically wrote, it's a wonderful thing to destroy words. It's not Winston who said that, but rather those who were against him. 1984 is a book, I mean, you don't have to read it if you are easy to be scared. It's a terrible book. Very rarely has a human being written such an anticipatory novel, destroying words, destroying the past, rewriting the past, piloting decisions, guiding decisions. Orwell had understood it in 1984, and that was written in 1948, so soon after the end of the World War II. He understood that in that moment we wouldn't we would no longer have dictatorships as were known up to them. The dictatorships would have probably been imposed in a much, in a way, softer way. All tyrants have prospered because they convinced someone that that they had to fear somebody. Hitler said that the Jews are the cause of your economic disasters, but actually said that he could defend them. Same can be said for communism or capitalism. So there are lots of analogies with what happened 3 years ago. So there's a very huge pandemic, but it can defend you, provided that you obey some nonsense rules. And that's quite evident. I fear that was a general test. So, Enrico, I think that we truly need a revolution. Let's come back to the record, La Rivoluzione. You have this wonderful cover. I think that a couple of these covers are here. I've already seen a couple of them. This is a picture of the class, second class, section H of the Berchet High School in Milan. Actually, I thought of various possibilities for a cover, talking about the story of a peculiar generation like mine. And then these are something like the usual anecdotes told by singers, but it was precisely like that. The cover was going to be printed, and I was tidying up some drawers, and I saw this picture. I said, okay, this is going to be my cover, because it was talking about precisely these people. Let's listen to the song. Let me add something more. This song is about a generation, like my generation, which was very lucky. I mean, we were able to listen to the best music ever, whatever the genre you liked. I mean, we had the Genesis, we had the Beatles, we had Deep Purple if you liked rock. We had Lou Reed and David Bowie if you liked more sophisticated rock. We had the very best there was. And that's why, actually, when they asked me, whom do you like today? I'm embarrassed because I had so much. This is what I go and listen to. I'm not interested in what comes out today. And plus, our generation is the generation of terrorism, of violence. And I wrote about this in that book. It's the generation in which you had heroin as a marketing maneuver. Any person in my generation had a friend who basically was on heroin and who died of AIDS later on. So this is an emotional generation, a generation that suffered but enjoyed many important things at a very high level. And the word that would be always spoken was rivoluzione, the revolution.
Allora, in questa...
So in this photograph, we have our secret services in the Vatican, so we collect information. The last boy below, sitting below, is Maurizio Flores. He was my connection. And then I will explain to you how I got to him. There were quite a few people belonging to Communion Liberation. Either you were far leftist, or you were part of community and liberation, or you played. Those were three options at the time. So we found, well, I guess this is no longer a surprise, but we found two belonging to community and liberation. They are here at the meeting, who were here in this photograph, and I would like to call them Laura and Laura Bellelli and Dario Forisio. Please come to the stage.
Questa è proprio una carambata questa.
So this is a typical surprise, typical of one of the of a famous TV program of the past. You're very elegant. So, I resort to the late and beloved Raffaella Carrà. So please tell us an anecdote on Enrico, something nice you've never told anyone. How was Enrico like? Well, it's a joke. It's a typical joke of praise. Well, we're very good at it. Where are you in the picture? I am the second row. The one with the long hair. On the left-hand side of the picture. You were not in the picture, I think. Maurizio Flores is the first one in the below on the left, well, 50 years ago, the second class H of the Berchet High School. You need to think about life back in the 1970s. We were in Milan. We were in the heart of competition to state some truth in some way or another. Gad Lerner was the most the best of the lot. So me and Dario. We belong to the students' youth, and we were fighting because our revolution was to be able to obtain the presence of Christian people, of our Christian community, because we thought back then that salvation or a positive change of society could be brought about. You've come very close to getting back to the catacombs. You know that. We were hit. We were hit because of our beliefs. And I remember something about Enrico, and I have to say it. You can say it. You can understand it from the mentions of literature, of books. He loved to read. He studied a lot. He liked Latin, Greek literature. He liked English literature. But if I think about that period, the words were slogans, most of all. Slogans belonging to the left, parties, leftist parties. He stood out because he had poetry. Even when he did not sing in the classroom, he mocked other people for what had happened in the previous days, and he would make a quote of a British poet, or he would quote songs, especially British songs and British poems. I believe that he has lots of virtues, but most of all, he's a poet. That's the best virtue, the biggest virtue he has. He's a poet. Well, I go backwards. We were together when we were 6 years old, when we started primary school. We started primary school together. We look like twins, don't we? So at the end of the first year of the primary school, we saw him coming. He was 1 year younger than us, and so he could only listen to the lessons. And the teacher decided that he should be seated beside me. And we remained schoolmates for many years until the end of high school. So it's quite impressive if you think about it. So what you said earlier on music, when you spoke about music, we had various passions in common. Inter, we are both supporters of the Inter Football Club. It will create a breach, I know, it will create a breach in the audience. And secondly, we are fans, we are supporters of the Manchester United Football Club, because George Best was a very famous soccer player. And the George Best wore the shirt number 7. He had long hair. And then we were also very passionate about music. And he had an older brother who taught us several things, especially when it comes to music. And we started to play together. We started to make noise together. He was a maestro of the concert. He was the head of a concert. His passion for music was far bigger than ours. But most importantly, we had fun playing some sort of music. However, his love for music was born. Back then, we performed in the courtyards, and Enrico's aunts were the first fan base. They were the first fans of Enrico. Enrico's always been like that. He has always had a great passion for music, and then his love for literature. He gave me as a present all the books of Rudyard Kipling at the end of a primary school. That was his present for me. I liked him very much. He was quite a type at school. Do you recognize this picture of Enrico? This is a picture of Enrico when he was playing in the basements. Sorry if we turn our backs towards the audience. Maurizio Flores gave me this picture. He had this a camera pictures that had never been developed. This was back in 1974. These are some pictures of Enrico. Do you recognize yourself in these pictures? Of course I do. The owner of the basement was the drum player, as always, because the drums could not be played inside a house. So all of the drum players needed to have some sort of a basement. This is Maurizio Franzosi. I remember him very well. And we used to play in the cellar, in the basement. He's the son of a great goalkeeper of Inter Football Club, but that's not important. I played the bass guitar at the beginning. This is the first year, the first class H. I'm the one with long curly hair. So don't be ironical, please. But that was me back in the 1970s. That's a dedication. The first age without Enrico would be like Inter without Mazzola. So stare Enrico in all of his blinding beauty. Enrico is the best. So I had some friends who loved me very much back then. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to Enrico's friends. So this was a nice surprise for you. So getting back to communion and liberation, there's a wonderful novel, one of the most beautiful novels I've read. Its title is Gioco da ragazzi. It's an incredible book because it contains many, many years of history. It was the first time that I managed to dedicate much of my time to a project for months, thanks to the lockdown period we all experienced. We had a lot of spare time, and I had I can say that I spent my life making an album, then preparing for the tour. Then in the meantime, I also continued to write. And so it was very difficult for me to bring about one project at a time. With a lockdown, on the occasion of the lockdown, we were all forced to stay home. I slept for 7 hours, but there were 17 hours left, one spent to eat. I had a small gym in my house, so I had 15 hours per day, and so I decided to write. I would never have finished the book if I had not the chance to spend 4 months at home, forcibly. So I wrote a book in which each page was a sort of a minefield. The book is a story of two brothers, one born in 1956, the other one in 1956. They were educated by the family with a great sense of justice. But this leads to the fact that one of the brothers considers his sense of justice and his willingness he becomes a terrorist. And the other brother, felt the fact that you had to be a fan of the left-wing parties, and as a reaction, he became a fan of the right-wing party, becoming a terrorist of the right-wing party. It is inspired. It takes inspiration from terrible events of those years. But my principle was that of having the same distance from all of the characters. So pietas, a wrong adjective would change the whole page. So it took me a lot of work to write it. When it comes to communal liberation, you mentioned one episode in the book. There was an assembly. There was a students' meeting. 25th chapter, you write, the assembly continued. They talked about how a murder could be justifiable when the victim was a people's torturer. A boy from Communal Liberation, the Catholic association that had always been viewed with suspicion and hostility, tried to say that in a civilized country, no one can take a human life. No one. You cannot put yourself on the same level as those who do wrong. This boy was overwhelmed by booing. It was like that. The Berchet High School was really an exercise for life. And learning to live was also meant witnessing injustices back then. It was also it was also a school that trained journalists, magistrates. The school where the Communal Liberation Movement was born, the left-wing party had an intuition, namely investing on culture to take key roles. The right-wing party didn't have this intuition back in the 1970s. It's a fact. And it has to be said that the arrival of Silvio Berlusconi emphasized this problem. We can safely say that Berlusconi never invested in culture. So the right-wing parties started with 30 years of delay. Now we have Marcello Veneziani, we have Buttafuoco. Little by little, we have some intellectuals belonging, supporting right-wing parties. So we start now to think that we may have intellectuals who do not belong to the left-wing parties, but it was not conceivable back then. And I will show you another picture. I've never seen this picture. It is, we shot in 1975, David Bowie, who was a point of reference for you, an important point of reference, leaning towards a statue of Dante Alighieri. So there's a list of the 100 books that David Bowie loved most. I don't know whether it is reliable or not. In any case, the books loved by David Bowie was included the Divine Comedy by Dante, especially the Inferno. What did David Bowie represent for you? In addition to having written wonderful songs, David Bowie changed himself 1,000 times. He reached success. He was born in 1947. The real success with the character of Ziggy Stardust, with the Spies from Mars, an alien. So he reached a success at world level. He was 25. He was about to take the whole world over 1 year. In July 1973, he played at a concert in Hammersmith in London, and he said, "My last concert as Ziggy Stardust." A few months later, he reappeared in the US wearing in total white, playing a different kind of music. Then he went to Berlin and the Berlin trilogy with Brian Eno. Then he made other things. He changed constantly. What I admire about David Bowie is the fact that he never rested on the laurels. He never thought about the market. He never thought about selling records, although he sold lots of records, in a world in which, in many cases, artists reach success when they are very young. David Bowie wrote Black Star, a marvelous album, his last album, and he wrote the album knowing that he was about to die. At a certain point, his producer, Tony Visconti, who still didn't know anything about the situation, he said, "David, you wrote a wonderful album. What we need is a big marketing operation." And then David, smiling, answered, "I have in mind the biggest marketing operation you can ever imagine." Bowie died the day after Black Star was released. So the topic of death is present in all the 7 tracks of this album. It was hard for me to listen to this record. It was very hard for me too to listen to this record. However, it is also true that, well, it is curious that so few songs were written on a topic such as death. We actually live in a society which totally removes death. Think about the TV news. People use the word death in several expressions which have nothing to do with death. Then, when somebody dies, we use other words to say this person lost his battle against a disease, or he passed away. We never use the word death. Cemeteries and graveyards are outside the towns, as if to exercise our fear of death. Death is part of life. If death did not exist, just think about it. If death did not exist, why should you worry about saving souls? Why should I write songs? Everybody would postpone things. Death is a driving force. You must leave a trace. You must leave a mark of your life on this earth, and you must do things as soon as possible. You don't know how much time you're going to have at your disposal. So death is a topic. For some people, it's an end. For somebody else, it's a beginning. I wrote a song titled Forma 21, one of the figures of Tai Chi, a sort of a halfway between exercise, a sort of a prayer. Lou Reed is making a Forma 21, Form 21. You raise your arms towards the sky. His wife was holding him, and Lou Reed died with his hands towards the sky. Lou Reed, whose life was all but spiritual. So he died with his arms raised to the sky. And his wife said, I saw in his eyes an expression of wonder. So I saw some people dying, and I always saw this expression in the eyes. I see something that I cannot tell you. This is a big hope to me. Thank you. So, talking about David Bowie and Black Star, there's a song which reminds me of a Black Star sounds. Il punto di rottura. That's the title of Black Star. It's a song in which you sort of exercise fears. You exercise suffering, for instance. So in many cases, you also dwell on very strong feelings. I will explain it as Enrico explained it in the book. The breakpoint, Il punto di rottura had a very intense lyric. There was a girl from Pescara who came to all of our concerts. And each time that this track started, she bursted into tears. And this was rewarding to me because it showed me that a song is able to leave a mark, a profound mark in our lives. So bringing about loves that have no meaning, refusing to die, and fighting against time, warming an evening with a fire turned off by the wind. I don't know how I came here. I don't know when everything changed. I only tried to get back the credits given to life. I've simply tried a simple search for love. When you find yourself with your back against the wall, when what you see doesn't seem real, when you're falling and you can't stop and you even miss the loneliness, when in the mirror you scare yourself, that is a breaking point, and there's no going back. But it's not an easy choice. To look inside yourself, to pull out that blade stuck in the middle, and there's no way to find one next to you. In the weeping, and I don't know how I fell here. I don't know when I lost myself, though I simply tried to take back the credits given to life. I simply searched for love. When you find yourself with no future left, and there is nothing left that you're sure of, when you don't even care about dying, and you only need solitude, when you see that there is no cure, that is the breaking point, and there's no going back. When your back is against the wall, when what you see doesn't seem real, when you're falling and you can't stop and you even miss the loneliness, when in the mirror you scare yourself, that is a breaking point, and there is no going back. So we have this evil stuck in the middle of us. Well, it's very, very complicated to live. Living is complicated. Each time you listen to some painful story from another person, this person telling the story is the good one, and someone else is a villain. But the villain, somebody has to be a villain. So the fear is that all of us are one time the villains, one time the good ones. We are so ill-equipped to live that in some cases we become those who cause suffering to other people. We've always almost come to an end of this meeting. The title of this year's meeting is if we are not after the essence, then what are we after? We won a Sanremo Festival with a weird song, both when it comes to music and the lyrics. The title is Mistero, Mystery. I had already won with another song, with other singers, with a more popular kind of lyric. And that was Si può dare di più. So there were no riffs in this lyrics. There were some verses ending with this word, mystery. It was a style, this style trick, talking about love without ever mentioning the word love. Will you be frank? Will you be sincere? Tell me, tell me. It came out of the blue as a verse, but it was not considered to be appealing as a verse. So it was, my victory was quite unexpected. I was very much pleased by the victory, of course. There's something which impressed me about Father Luigi Giussani when I met him and when I started to read his writings. He referred to the Creator with the word mystery. Are you able to give a face to this mystery? Is it mystery or the mystery with a capital M? That's a big difference. If it's with a small m, the mysteries with a small m are weird things of life, coincidences, the larks, the many mysteries you mention in the other song titled Polvere. So you try to play your cards in the best way possible, or you try to change your cards. The mystery with a capital M, well, that was mentioned earlier. In that case, first of all, this is your relationship with yourself. If I pray before I go to sleep, and if I think about my day before I go to sleep, I'm talking with myself, with my conscience, with God. Who am I talking to? I don't know it really. But it seems to me that somebody's listening to me, of course. There's a step called faith, which makes you certain that there is someone listening to you. This is a work in progress. We are all on our way towards faith. So we've almost come to the end of this meeting with Enrico Ruggeri. He was so generous. It was a pleasure for me to be here. So before closing the meeting with one of the most beautiful songs of the history of Italian songs, of Italian music, Il Mare d'Inverno, he's going to play this song live. I would like, first of all, to call to the stage our wonderful actress, Giulia Villa. Please come join us. And this round of applause is for you, for your wonderful performance. Thank you, thank you. And then I would like to thank all the organizers of the meeting for their courage to give me this task. I am a priest in the Diocese of Rome. I write about music for the Osservatore Romano newspaper. This meeting is a result. Can I say something? If I forget things, I will be reproached. I would like to thank all the people who made it possible for us to have Enrico here. We've been working for months to organize this meeting. I'm only the final result of something very beautiful that we managed to live all together. Well, just because we needed to find a date, it was not because I didn't want to come. I am on tour. Yesterday I was in Loara. Tomorrow I will be playing in Brindisi. I know. You are on tour. So I would like to thank Guido Giunchi, Giovanni Assandri, Nick. We don't know his Christian name. Alberto Pasqualotto, Francesco Castellanza, Nico Di Leone. I would like to thank Alessandro Torraca. Thank you very much. I would like to thank the head of the study, Mr. Bacchini. You said something very beautiful. We were talking about the most beautiful aspect of this meeting, the 3,000 volunteers working every year for this meeting to take place. And they are the backbone of this event. The large movements organizing important events such as this one need to rely on volunteers. Back in the 90s, 80s and 90s, especially in the 1980s, I played a lot in the Unità festivals in Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, in Umbria, and there were many volunteers, those who believed in a project, and then with time, volunteers have been lacking. You know, cooking sausages for Berlinguer was a different thing than cooking sausages for other contemporary politicians. And I don't want to be bad when I say these things, but young volunteers believe in the project. That's why they come. The beautiful thing here is that in a period in which everything is black or white, you have fans, you have supporters or haters, you have lovers or haters. Either you say on the side or you say on the other side. And the aim is that of delegitimizing other people so that this person becomes, is totally annihilated. That's not dialectics. That's not constructive. Whereas if you read the names of people coming to the mini meeting, you see that there are people having different thoughts. Not all of them think the same way. You have the chance to listen to people having a different idea, and if you listen to this person, you may get enriched after listening to this person who has different ideas. So I would like to congratulate you, because there are not so many places in which this is possible. So thank you, Enrico. I was honored to have spoken to you on this stage. Thank you to the meeting. Thank you all for being here. There are so many of you, and we will now enjoy this wonderful song titled Il mare d'inverno, written and performed by Enrico Ruggeri. Thank you very much.
Alla prossima. Ciao a tutti, buonanotte.
Francesco Lupi.
Maestro Francesco.
Grazie ragazzi, a presto.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
È come se ci conoscessimo. Siamo 1 milione di persone con la stessa energia. Ci incontriamo 1 milione di volte al giorno, in 1 milione di momenti diversi, dentro 1 milione di case. Illumia, insieme con la stessa energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, Permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
È come se ci conoscessimo. Siamo 1 milione di persone con la stessa energia. Ci incontriamo 1 milione di volte al giorno, in 1 milione di momenti diversi, dentro 1 milione di case. Illumia, insieme con la stessa energia.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi